Good morning, Armstrong County. 8 minutes past the hour right now. David and Friends on the air with you. I'm the David. You're the friend. Thanks for coming along on the ride today. On this Tuesday, July the 2nd, we are already halfway through the year, and it's 73 degrees on the outside. If you're just getting up and about, you have pleasant sunshine to start the day, but don't get too used to it by this afternoon. We are supposed to get into some rain, which we can expect. Yeah, so this is going to be a start out of a beautiful day. If you got to do something, do it right now outside. Go out running around, do whatever you got to do. But by mid-afternoon or so, we're going to see some showers. And we'll talk to the National Weather Service in Pittsburgh a little bit later on in the show. But first of all, I have a guest today that I'm excited to have because when I met him, I knew he was a mover, a shaker, a doer. I like people who are doers and not just people that talk about it. And so Jack Clevesy is one of those people that I like to meet that can make something happen. He's the former CEO of the YMCA, the Richard G. Snyder YMCA here in town. And he is preparing to leave town. So I said, well, before you leave, you got to come and say goodbye. So, Jack, you're here this morning to kind of say goodbye. This is kind of bittersweet, right?
Yeah, it's extremely bittersweet, Dave. This has probably been one of the finest tours with the YMCA that I've ever done. And this community is just downright awesome.
Well, let's go back. I want to know the real Jack. Okay, I'm always one for knowing people and knowing the background. So let's start out and talk about your early days. So how did this all develop? This whole concept of what you do, because you've been to several YMCA's. This isn't the first tour of duty, so to speak. But each one you go into, you are able to kind of pull it together, help them to go to the next level, which is what you've done here. So let's start way back at the beginning. You grew up where?
So I grew up in a place called Bradford, Massachusetts, and started my early Y career there at about 3 years old.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my mom and dad would drop us kids off there, and we learned how to swim there. And when I got out of the Marine Corps, I actually I boxed out of the YMCA there for about 7 years competitively, which just taught me a lot. It taught me a real lot.
Now, we hadn't talked about it since probably midwinter. You were talking about boxing coming back and the YMCA kind of picking it up. Did that all happen?
Well, not just yet. There are a couple more moves that have to take place over at the old field house at the Kittanning football field. But from there, I really suspect things will work out well.
Okay, I know that you were talking about that. And, I know that that's something that's kind of near and dear to the hearts of the Kittanningites, because that's something that has happened over the last, 25, 35, 40 years, that people have been involved in boxing in the youth. And it just was kind of a shame whenever they started it there above the Wick City Saloon, and then that just kind of fell apart because of some issues. And so the YMCA's decision to pick that up, I think, was great. And we talked about that this winter, so that's why I bring it back up.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you did. Wick City did a great job. Those folks, Chris and his family are just outstanding folks. And when you go in there and you take a look at the walls, boxing is everything that has taken place inside of that place. It's literally a museum of fantastic pictures of people that you see walking the streets. Rick Schaefer, every day you see Rick out there, and Rick had a bright young boxing career there, and that's just neat. And it's necessary, when people are looking and searching for the answers of how to keep kids off of drugs. It's programs like that are through hard work, really change an individual and truly guide them so that they're a better person.
And really, when we talk about that, too, it's not a matter of aggression. Some people think, well, you get out there in a football field, and you do work out the physical aspects of it, of aggression, but really they're taught how to control themselves, because when you're in that atmosphere, whether it's football or whether it's boxing or whatever, you are in an atmosphere that you have to learn how to adapt and how to do and strategize. And it's not just a matter about getting upset and pounding on somebody.
No, not by any means. As a matter of fact, there's more strategy to it than not. Obviously, you can see the difference between technicians when they get in the ring, who has strategy down and who has just got some brute force. Because you do meet up with those folks out there as well too, that are downright determined. But for the most part, it really is. It's a sport of strategy, and you take that into your life as you move forward. So it's exciting. They worry these days about concussions, and really they should. But what folks don't know, there's more documented concussions in the sport of soccer than there is in the sport of boxing. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
All kind of things I'm learning. But this is how you started. The YMCA, you at 3 years old, then you ended up being in boxing there. And so you took advantage of all the programs when you were young.
Yeah. And actually initiated a few triathlon programs at the Haverhill YMCA in Massachusetts. I got a chance to help start that program there. And then many races that we ran. And then when I finally hung up being a strength and conditioning coach at Colby Sawyer College, my first appointment with the Y was in Raleigh, North Carolina, at a Y that was extremely dysfunctional. My gosh, it rained harder on the inside than it did on the outside.
I've had a few buildings like that.
And they brought me in because they had lost about 2,300 membership units. Each unit weighs about 2.8 people. Somewhere in through there is a ratio. And the reason why it's measured in units is because they want to consider what a family would look like amongst the rest of the membership. So that's why. We didn't necessarily get back that amount of people because that was close to about 7,000 people all told. But we got back quite a few. And from there, then they built a brand new Y on the site. And that really just started my whole Y career. From there, I moved on and became an assistant executive director at a couple of different Ys across the country, and then I became a operations director, a COO, and then I VP in various spots, and then hence got the opportunity to come here to Kittanning.
Was this something, though, that you gave thought to along the way, or is this something that just because of who you are, your personality, your passion, that just kind of developed on its own?
Well, I don't remember which Bible verse it is, but it says, faith without works is dead. And so there's nothing that you do in your life without purpose that materializes. I never set out to be a CEO. But I did set out to be a high developing leader within the Y organization. YUSA would not take no for an answer. There are a couple of people that are responsible for getting me to where I am today, and no wasn't the answer. And so, I remember going to 5 CEO interviews and being the first person in to make it all that way, and my gosh, I would get asked from my mentors, how did I think I did. I said, well, look, I made it all the way to the final interview, and they would tell me I did a lousy job interviewing, that I needed to work harder, and blah, blah, blah. And, I've just been blessed with that kind of feedback in my life, and I really enjoy to find out what I need to do better than what I don't need to do better.
You didn't take it as an obstacle. You took it as a challenge.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And see, that's the difference between quality leaders, is they come up against the challenges, but they don't look at it, okay, well, just because I can't do this now, or this didn't pan out the way I wanted it to pan out, or whatever. You move into that different dimension that says, okay, this is the challenge for me personally to grow, for me to personally develop, for me to then also be able to continue to reach out, and that's kind of what you've done.
Yeah. I'm glad you phrase it like that, because when I think back to how I try to lead folks, I really try to give them a lot of development opportunities where I didn't necessarily have those. I had to seek those out. I remember when I was going to undergraduate school and I was moonlighting with a 911 unit out of Rochester, New Hampshire. I had enrolled in paramedic school, and I was learning about the medications that I could administer. And on each truck there was a paramedic, and then there was an EMT intermediate, which that's what I was at the time. And I remember talking with the paramedic that was in charge, and he literally told me he wasn't going to help me. And I just remember telling him from my experience, I said, if you're not going to, I'm either going to go over you or around you, but somebody in this house is going to help me out and help me learn these medications to administer. So I've just always had that drive.
Yeah, well, it takes that. So how did you get, though, to Kittanning? I mean, we're not like necessarily the destination place, I guess, of the YMCA.
No. As a matter of fact, I remember having to call up the Y anonymously and have them pronounce Kittanning to me, because I'd heard many different versions of it, even
Kittanning,
yeah. If you put it on your GPS, Kittanning, it's like, what? Oh, way too funny. But I had no idea that Kittanning even existed, let alone the history that's great right here. And so as I explained, YUSA had set up 5 different interviews at 5 different associations. And I remember after my interview here, when I got to the airport, I was redirecting my flight because YUSA had number 6 and didn't want me to go back home. They wanted me to fly to New York, and so I got to the desk. I'm just getting ready to sign the deal away and head in a different direction, and I got a phone call from the board of directors, and they had wanted me, and I really enjoyed being here. My time here was short. I came on a Sunday. It was the last day of the festival downtown, and so I got a chance to walk around there and see folks. And of course, I always secret shop the Ys that I go to, and just go in as a community member so that I can just watch what goes on, see if this is going to be a good fit for me. And this just turned out to be a great fit. Yeah.
When you came on, 2.5 years ago now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You came onto this radio program, and we sat here and talked.
I remember.
And I posed something at you. In fact, I almost pulled the audio today, and I thought, we'll just talk about it. But I posed something to you. I said, how long are you going to be here? And I remember what you said. I don't know if you do, but I remember specifically because, we see people come and go. But some people lodge in our hearts, and you've been a person to lodge in the hearts of the people here because you've inspired, you have, as a person, I'm not talking about just the Y at this point, as a person, Jack comes in, and you inspire people to be, not just to be all they can be, but to actually do something a little more than what they can be. You push them down to that last edge where they have to either jump or get off.
Yeah.
And, amazing. And so, whenever they said you were leaving, and I got the notice, I went, now you're leaving a little bit premature to what you were planning on it whenever I interviewed you almost 3 years ago. So the early out.
Well, it's really not the early out. One of the things that I focus on, and I know I'm one of the very few that do, there's an expiration date to everything that we do. And if you want your life to stay vibrant and you want to focus on the Lord, you've got to know what time it is, and what you've done. This community turned this YMCA around much faster than anybody could have expected. It usually takes about 5 to 6 years to do what we did in less than a year and a half. Mm-hmm. And because of really just this great community, you guys allowed me to do my job, and we got there. We got there. As a matter of fact, we were looked at by YUSA, which is the parent corporation underneath the 2,800 YMCAs across the United States and the world, there are some key metrics. They call them key financial benchmarks, and they're all asset-based. But when you take a look at an asset, and then you start to dismantle it, you come down to all the little things that are there. So this is the helicopter view to take a look at. Well, there were 10 10 metrics, and they were all in the red. So there's an opportunity to have them in the yellow too, which means they're in transition. But green is what you want to see. And I can sit here with all authenticity to tell you today that all those metrics are green. And they were all red when we first got together. Wow. So this community really rallied around itself. And yeah, you know, I am a doer. I am I am going to push you to be the best you can be. And so when you walk that road, you just have to know when it's time for you to step out. So I might have been only a couple months early getting out.
So, so you remember what you told me then.
Yeah, I do. Wow, and that's really neat you brought that up, actually.
I didn't forget. I was actually kind of charting you while you were going along and saying, okay, well, he has this long to finish this and this.
Yeah.
And you did, though. That's the exciting thing. You did it. You joined an elite group of people, and I don't know that you realize this, but an elite group of people who know when it's time to leave. That's the hardest thing of doing something, because you get comfortable and you're excited and you've accomplished some things, and the tendency with some people is just to coast and enjoy it, because now we're enjoying the fruit of your labor the last 2.5 years, but you're walking out, and so that's for you that's kind of like, wow. Andy Griffith was on top of the pile. He was the #1 show when he went to the network and said, I'm done, we're stopping. And they pleaded with him. They said, no, you can't. You're like #1. Why would you want to get out now? He said, because there's nothing better I can do. And he walked away from all of that. And I always admire the person who says, you know what? I've done what I can do, and it's time to go. And you're leaving it in the capable hands of the people that you've trained, the people that you've helped them to identify and understand the inner workings of the why, because every organization has its inner workings. But you've trained them to do that before I don't know that they knew all of that. I doubt it, because otherwise they would have done it.
Sure.
But you have trained them. You've brought them along to this point, and today you're saying goodbye.
Yeah,
That's got to be like...
Well, it's a whirlwind. I can't, when I stop for a second, I look in the mirror, I know that I'm blessed, because none of this would be possible without Jesus Christ. And, I know I talk about God a lot. I'm not a Christian. I don't know what the heck I am. I know that the day I finally get a chance to stand in front of God, I'll probably find out what I am. And I'm frankly not really a leader either, because I don't know that what I've left behind has tentacles and will last forever. This really comes down to us. There are a couple of different things that I left with the staff when I had breakfast with them the other morning, as well as the board. #1, love each other. I mean, nothing gets better than doing this kind of work when everybody loves each other. #2, don't get comfortable. If you get comfortable, you're not going to be ready. I attribute that to the Taliban probably does not take fighting off on Christmas Day. So we got to fight. We got to fight every single day. Starting to watch people fix up the storefronts downtown here is just, it's soothing my heart tremendously. Get involved. Don't stop. And definitely don't take no for an answer. It's an easy way out, and there is no easy way. And those are the things that I stand on and will continue to stand on. And as I eased on down the road, I just... I just want to thank this whole community for how well they've embraced me this last few weeks, but really more so my wife. My gosh, we've moved around so much. She hasn't had the opportunity to have these kind of friendships, and her whole pickleball gang has embraced her and just really taken great care of her. And I just so appreciate that as we move into transition.
Last question, and I got to ask you, where's Jack Clevesy going from here?
Oh, wow. Gosh, I don't.
Do you have a place you're going to?
Well, we do. So we have a house that we bought down in North Carolina, right on the ocean, and so we're going to go down there and suck up some sand and sun for a week or so. Well, for myself, a week or so. I don't know. My wife will probably take a little bit longer, but then I'm going to get right back at it. I don't know what's in store. I want to get down there and do some volunteering, but I can't rule out that I'll be in the next next moving truck headed somewhere, because it's just what I do.
It's just what he does. Jack Clevesy, God bless you as you go on your journey.
Hasta luego.
We'll be right back. Don't go away. More to come today. David and Friends on the air with you.